ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सागररघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। I hope that everyone can hear me well. Can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, this is the verse that we'll be focusing on today, and how it is recited is Bhogeshwarya Prasaktanam Taya Paharata Te Chetasham Vyavasyayamikta Buddhihi Samadho na Vidhiyate. And what it basically means is that in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. I will explain this, but first I would like to say that this translation and this purport of this verse is provided by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhagavad-gītā Jai. And although the translation and purport are really small, I do have lots to talk about. So I'm hoping that I will be able to explain this really well to you guys. Okay, so can I get someone as a volunteer to read the purport, please? Yes, Julie Mataji, go ahead.
Okay. Purport. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Niriti, please correct me if I'm wrong, says, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this part.
You can go directly to the translation.
Okay. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mataji, for reading that. So, samadhi means it's referring to a fixed mind. And what that essentially means is that your mind is not wavering. It's not being victim to your material desires. It's just focused on the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. And so there's this dictionary, it's called the Vedic dictionary. It's called the Nirukti. And basically what it's saying that is that when the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi, and samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyment. So just to explain this in different words, what this means is that because in previous sessions I've explained, or some other volunteers of this class who also teach this class have also explained, that we are not our bodies. We are the soul, and the soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. It's like we are parts of him. And what this is saying is that we have to understand that we are the soul, and when we understand that we are not who we are in this body, but we are an eternal soul, we are when we start relating to things that way, when we start thinking spiritually, we are said to be in or progressing towards a mindset where we are in samadhi. This is all a mental mindset, by the way. It doesn't mean that just because so usually when someone says that they are in samadhi, it means that they're meditating, or that they are just, like they've gone and they're just sitting in samadhi. They've gone to the mountains and they're just meditating. That's not what this means in this particular context. This means that this person is not interested in material sense enjoyment, and they are no longer being a victim of such temporary things, which means like Maya. That means that we are no longer being we are no longer influenced by any sort of for example, money, or our jobs, what someone else thinks of us. It means that we are no longer affected by any of these things. So they are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. So what this last sentence is referring to is that it's saying that our material energy no longer affects us. So more or less. Basically, when we dedicate our lives to Sri Krishna, and when we start on this path of devotional service, and our lives become more about Krishna, that's when we can focus more on developing our relationship with him, and also and when we start recognizing and bringing Krishna up in our regular lives, we become so. He gives us that benefit that once we start thinking more about him, we don't think about, or we don't become as affected by Maya anymore, by material energy anymore. So in my research, going over this specific verse, what I understood about it is that this verse, it talks about what blocks us from reaching our goals. Why do we stress, and what happens when we stress? So I would actually like to open up the conversation a little bit and ask you guys, feel free to type it in the chat or unmute yourself. What happens to us when we stress about our lives, our goals, and when we're not reaching them as fast as we want? Feel free to raise your hands as well.
I'll share.
For sure.
Yeah, when I'm worried, like right now, I'm really stressing about my job, and I know that I get caught up in self, and I'm not thinking about others or Krishna. I've been trying to bring Krishna into my day-to-day, but it just kind of, if I'm focused on that, I become more focused on that, and I get really stuck, and I'm just like low vibration.
Yep. And then as a result of that, especially because we're women, we get so it affects how we function, how our inner systems, how they function. For example, our hormones, they get jumbled up, they get affected so much. Actually, a few examples that I can talk about, but at first I will see what has been written in the chat. We will not be able to reach our goal. We will be depressed, and we might be angry. That's exactly true. Oh yes, we get so mad that why is our life the way that we are? I mean, why is our life the way that it is going, and why is all of this happening to me? You feel very like you feel like you're the victim, and you don't feel like your God is with you, but that's actually not true. So actually, these are things that we can control. So usually, some examples of being so attached to material energy is that we might become so focused on God, not on God, but on our goal, and sometimes that can be affected by multiple things. That means that we can become so focused on our minds become so scattered as well by many side desires or doubts. It's just like, this is your main goal, but then you also, just for example, the job situation is also what I am also worried about, is like, I want to travel, I want to be able to do more service for the Lord, but I don't have many funds coming in for myself. I want to be able to like do things for my family using that money, but then I am not like, that's not what my focus is right now. That I think that's how I am trying to like explain to myself that Krishna has a plan for me, but right now this is not my focus. Maybe I'm not supposed to be indulging in these things right now. It's just like, this is his plan for me. Maybe all of this is supposed to come later in life. I just don't know when, but I'm supposed to trust him. I'm supposed to trust the process. So you have to think about it. Like, do the choices that I'm making in life, or the thoughts that come up into my mind, do they support my main goal? Am I thinking about things for my short-term pleasure or gain, or am I thinking about it from the divine perspective? Am I thinking about, how is Krishna thinking about me in this situation? So these are some examples of what it means to have the Vyavayasaya Yatmika Buddhihi. So what that means is like being fixed in determination, right? That's what I'm trying to highlight here. These words, being fixed in determination, it depends how you're being fixed in determination. Are you determined from a perspective of your spiritual needs, or are you continuously and only focusing on your short-term pleasures, your short-term gain? Because we are the soul, we're not our body, and whatever happens to us in this life this is where it's all gonna remain. But if we think about it from a divine perspective, from a devotional service perspective towards Krishna, it becomes eternal. It becomes more like our spiritual realization towards the Lord. Okay, my next point that I wanted to talk about is when we are so attached to our enjoyment and opulence, so our bhoga and ashwarya, when we are so attached, what happens? That's when we are primarily thinking about our own pleasure, our own comfort, our socioeconomic status, our luxury, the things that we need in terms of like what we want in this life, because we're born this way. How does this how do all of these categories, your pleasure, your comfort, your status, your luxury, how does that drive your choices in terms of your mood and your identity? Can someone help me answer this question? Sorry, Mataji, your voice isn't very clear.
Is that better?
Yes, that's way better.
All right, glad you popped up. I'm really focused on what other people think of me. And to me, I think if other people accept or like me, then I'm comfortable. So I don't know if that is what's happening, but that's what came up.
No, of course, that is actually one of the examples that I was searching for. Does anybody else have any sort of examples that they can contribute? Srijita Mataji, I know you're smart. Feel free to unmute yourself and answer the question. Oh no, she left. Okay, no worries. I will help you answer the question. Okay, so my question is, what are some examples of us being victimized by our material enjoyment and opulence? In other words, our bhog and ashwarya. In what ways do we fall victim to our material enjoyment? In what ways do we think about only ourselves?
I think like if we are getting that kind of an environment, like the Krishnas from the childhood, then we will be habitual, and then after if we are growing and we are away from the God, so we are habitual to the material world. We are getting that kind of friends and everything. We are far from the religious things, and this, I think this is the Maya that restrict us. I have an example. I'm following the Krishna, and sometimes I feel in my family someone is sick, and that time I'm believing in God. Why is this all happened to me? Blah blah blah. That kind of things. And sometimes I feel the connection is broken. So I have to refill myself with the Krishna and that kind of things. If we are getting all in one, if we are getting that kind of environment regularly, continuously, persistently, then there is less chance to fall in this material world.
Yep. So a few examples that I was looking for, but that's a very good answer. You're talking mainly about how when we focus on what's happening to us in the current situation, that we become so enveloped in it that we don't think about a lot of other things. So an example that I was looking for is, for example, when you are so focused on For example, we binge watch so many shows. We regularly we can oversleep, and then we can also overindulge in entertainment. Like, for example, the binge watching concept that I just talked about. And even though you know that you should be sleeping on time, that we need to wake up at a certain time, that we need to continue to have a spiritual practice, all of this, it hinders us from reaching certain goals, our certain health goals, our certain relationship goals. All of this affects the way that we function in our everyday lives, because we want that constant stimulation in our brains. We need that dopamine being released whenever we feel any sort of restlessness or emptiness that we feel when our life is just simple and quiet. Another thing that Julie Mataji had just mentioned, thinking about what others think about us. For example, not like at another level, we can think about buying designer clothes, the latest gadgets, the most newest cars, the decor that you don't need. Like, for example, I know people who change their homes decor every season, and to some people that may be very that may fulfill how they feel in the current moment, and that's an example of a short-term pleasure. But when we think about it from a perspective like, do I need to spend money on this? Do I really need to change up the decor in my house every 4 or 5 months? Like, sometimes that is not really required. That's an example, because you feel ashamed to be seen as ordinary, that you have a certain type of phone, that you have a certain type of car, you wear a certain type of clothes. It's just like you equate your own worth with how fancy you want to seem to people. That's an example. And another example is how you measure your own success and your own self-respect with how much you earn, with what your job title is, with how big your house is. All of those things, because those are the material energy that material things give us, that we feel secretly happy when others have less, or even though you might also feel like, oh, let me find friends who have the same economic stature as me. Let me find friends that are not below me, because it confirms that you want to find people who are always above you. Above you or at the same economic status. So all of these things, I feel, are examples of material enjoyment and opulence. Other examples we can talk about are when we feel like we can skip our prayers, our meditation, or our reflections, because you don't want to miss because you have FOMO. FOMO is like the fear of missing out. You don't want to miss any type of show, any sort of party, or any sort of time that you will spend doing like scrolling on your phone, for example, because you're so distracted. Because in those type of situations, when you are skipping your prayer, your meditation, or your reflection, you are doing that by bending your own values. You're doing that to mainly gain that pleasure, that dopamine in your brain that is released to give you that sort of comfort, that, oh, I'm doing this. But you yourself know consciously that is wrong. But for some reason, we don't stop ourselves. So if losing a particular pleasure or luxury would feel like you are losing yourself, that's a sign of attachment, and you should really focus on getting rid of that attachment and focusing on something more meaningful, on something that involves bringing Krishna into your daily life. So that's that. These are examples of being attached to your enjoyment and opulence. So when we are focused on one higher goal and not getting distracted by short-term pleasures or gains, we are able to live a more meaningful life, a life that is more determined for devotional service to the Supreme Lord. When we set goals according to our material desires, that limits us to a materially empowered vision only for this and this life only. But when we remember Krishna and we dedicate what we do towards him, and we remember him in everything that we do, our actions and our visions become spiritual. And our goal as aspiring devotees is to make sure that we bring together our life and to make our lives spiritual. It's not to have a spiritual life and a material life. It's to not live two different ways of being. Okay, this is how I am in public, and this is how I am in my intimate social circle with whenever I go to the temple on Sunday. Like, no, that you're supposed to bring your life together as one, and having one life, a spiritual life. And we do that when we remember Krishna, when we dedicate what we do towards him. When our minds get so obsessed and addicted to the material fulfillment that we feel when, for example, when we go and buy like a super expensive car, or we get the latest iPhone, or when we are binge watching a show, we become a victim of our true identities getting a hold. Basically, our identities get stolen by Maya, because we are being constantly we're constantly being victimized. Not victimized, but we're becoming a victim by those material energies. They make us blind. So an example of this is just like how Dhritarashtra, the head of the clan of the Gurus, he is physically blind, but because he is so attached to his son and the vision that he has for his son and his entire clan, he wants his sons to be opulent and rich, right? They don't want the Pandavas to ask for any sort of share of their wealth. They don't want them to exist at all, basically. And because he's blind to the fact that he was that he was allowing his sons to drive their whole clan to their death in the Mahabharata, he knew and consciously didn't stop his sons, for example, from disrobing Draupadi. He continued. He didn't say anything. He allowed and supported his sons from treating a woman poorly, from treating his cousins poorly, even though they're family. So it's our goal to get rid of our attachment to material joys and to focus our life on Krishna. And then that's when our lives will become more they will become more abundant. When we focus our life on Krishna, Krishna at that point will also think about us. Will also think about how can he make us happy in this life as well. And also another thing, we need to also focus on how when we have Krishna in our lives, we're happier. We feel his presence. We feel his presence even when we're sad, and that's the goal, that even when we're sad, even though we're going through a tough time in our lives and we feel his presence, that time is in our life is no longer a sad period. It becomes a time where we can focus more time on chanting. We can focus more time on doing more devotional service, more listening, more hearing. Sorry, that's the same thing. More listening and more reading. You can do more things to improve your relationship with the Lord, to pour more love towards him. And that is basically the whole entire explanation of this shlok. I see that Rishita Mataji has said, yes, we can change clothes according to occasions, but not our inner selves. That's true. One of the previous shlokas that we reviewed is that how changing our bodies is like changing our clothes, but who we are inside is our soul, and that never changes. It can never be destroyed. It is in an eternal form. It's part and parcel of the Supreme Being. So we can change our clothes, but not our inner selves, and that's why we should focus on getting rid of our constant craving and fear of getting out of our material enjoyment and opulence, and thinking more spiritually. So yeah, that is all. If you guys have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat or unmute yourself. I'll do my best to answer the questions. Anyone have any questions? Thank you, Rishita Mataji. How can we regulate our sleep? That's a great question. I think you told me recently, Rishita Mataji, that you should put your phone away at least 30 minutes before you go to sleep. Try reading a book. You'll fall asleep faster. How else can we regulate our sleep? I think that you should eat properly. You should eat more nutritional food. You should eat Krishna Prasadam, of course, and doing physical exercise. I know for me, I have PCOS, so that messes with my hormones. And what I've noticed is that if I work out earlier in the day, I can sleep better at night. But if I go to the gym, like let's say 2 or 3 hours before going to sleep, there are chemical infusions taking place in my brain that make me stay awake longer. So it's better for me if I work out earlier in the day than I do in the evening. So that's an example of how you can improve your sleep. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. Also, have less caffeine or have no caffeine at all if you continue to have any sort of coffee on a daily basis. Okay. Anybody else? No? Julie Mataji?
I'm just thinking, like, it's just so easy to get caught up in the Maya. Okay. And I guess, sorry, my dog. Yeah, just trying to bring Krishna into every moment and every action. Like, it just keeps pulling me back, but I just keep practicing, I guess.
Yeah. It as long as we practice, because for him, our efforts are what matter. Even if we're not perfect in the beginning, our efforts to become perfect are what matters to him. Yeah. Okay. Alright then, that's all for today. Feel free to let me know if you guys have any other questions, but for now, we'll say Hare Krishna for this evening.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
No worries. Vajakalpatarubhishcha kripasindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
See you guys next week.
Thank you.